take a Monday today. So I will be with you Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Mrs. Schmidt's going to be out of the office some this week. She's going to be doing ACT testing. So if you need her, you send her an email or whatever else, just know that it might be a little bit longer in her response time because she's out doing some fun ACT testing. Bless her soul. Today, we are going to finish up some trophic level things. Oh, let's pull up, I will do this in a minute. We'll pull up our Jamboards from last week that we made, because remember, I wanted to go over those, and I realized it was a Wednesday. It was not a Tuesday or Monday where we could come in and show them next. So let's go through this. What is a trophic level? Trophic level. Does anyone know? Can anyone remember what a trophic level is? We talked about it. I kind of gave the word trophic another name. Do you remember? Kind of. Yes. Trophic just means energy. So everybody type that in the chat right now. Trophic equals energy. Okay. So we talked about energy levels in our ecosystems and how populations are growing and they need energy to grow. And a lot of it relies on the growth of their population, relies on their environment, right? We talked a little bit about carrying capacity last week. Can somebody remind me? Speaking of let it go, I've got Elsa right here. Elsa, can you say hello? Hello. She's wearing an Elsa dress. Oh, Elsa. Sorry, I got distracted. We need all of those food supplies and oxygen and habitats in order for they said, you're beautiful, Mila. Oh, she's dancing now. That really set up her confidence level. All right, we talked about carrying capacity has to do with those resources. All right, carrying capacity is a big one. I want to say like knowing things, big names, things like mitosis, cell division of normal body cells, meiosis, cell division of reproductive cells, carrying capacity, protein synthesis. I'm going to throw out some more names at you. What else can we? Transcription and translation as part of protein synthesis, photosynthesis, cellular respiration, how your cells make energy. These are all big name things that you're going to hear on your test in April. Guaranteed 100% you will hear about carrying capacity. Okay, you will hear about trophic levels or will be asked about your food chains or food webs. So this is something we want to make sure that we know. I feel like personally, you're going to want that you feel like you might know the basics of the food chain. If I said food chain, without even starting a lesson, do you think you could like give me a basic idea of what a food chain is? So I see a lot of you being like, yeah, I'm with you on the food chain. All right, so what we need to do is take our food chain knowledge to the next level, right? Because food chain is 7th grade life science that we learn basics of, right? Where it's like, oh, can we follow a food chain through an ecosystem? All right, you can do that. But what you probably didn't know and what we're going to start connecting the dots on in this part of our unit is the trophic levels, the energy that each one of those levels contain. Okay? So we need to start adding energy to our food chain lessons. Mila and Ren, stop fighting. So that is what I want us to really focus on today. All right, and we talked about how energy is lost from one trophic level to another. We're going to look at that in a minute. And then we're going to look into food webs today. I asked you to make a food web versus a food chain, could you do that? A lot of us say yes. What's the difference between a food web and a food chain? All right, we're going to take it up a level on this pyramid already because you guys are biology rock stars. That's all there is to it. All right, so we're going to take it up right here. So you're telling me you know about food webs. I want you to do one of these up here, one of these understanding. What's the difference between a food web and a food chain? Webs are bigger, more complex, more animals with more connections. So in a food web, you're looking at a direct route, okay? So if I Googled how to get to, if I Googled how to get to Mila's house, I would pull up my phone. Okay, I'm gonna grab my phone. I would pull up my phone and I would get my little app thing going. Ready? On my phone, and it would give me multiple routes to Mila's house. It would give me multiple routes to Mila's house. One would be like without highways, the fastest way, without tolls. Yeah, that too. Okay, so that would give me different directions. And that's kind of the difference between a food web and a food chain. All right. There's in an environment, there's not only one organism that's responsible for eating the grass as a primary consumer. There's a lot of primary consumers. So a food web looks at all of the energy connections within an ecosystem or several, whereas your food chains are kind of point A to point B, one line, one direct energy route. Does that make sense? Give me a yes or no in chat. Putting my phone back on the charger. Yes. Okay. So with that being said, let's pull up this Jamboard from the other day. Let me find it. Did anybody go in after class and add more? I have to know. Yeah? I like that. Where did I put it? All right, right here. So I'm going to share my things are lagging. Do you want me to turn my camera off? Do you think that will help? It won't help. Okay. Usually it helps, but it helps if it's on my end. So if I'm not the one that's lagging. So I have a question. When I screen share, do you lose me up here in this corner of your screen? Or do I stay there as a presenter? I stay. All right. I was kind of hoping that. Jenna. Jana. I just called you Jenna, Jana. All right. Here we go. I would love if there's somebody that is willing to share with us today one of these things so that you don't just have to hear me talk. It could be the creator or one of the creators of these words. These are so good. I'm like low-key pumped about how awesome you did. All right. Who would like to explain one?
Sure. Also, Mrs. Rittenhouse, I'm sorry, there was the dogs wanted to go in and out. Could you explain to me food web and food chain real quick? I'm sorry, because the dogs don't ever leave me alone.
Yeah, sure. Food web, food chain.
Yes, because
Okay. Yes. So a food web is going to be one direct path of energy. All right. It's not the only path of energy in a ecosystem. So like in this first picture, you could pick one food chain being like plankton to puffer to shark. All right. That would be one food chain. Now, in a food web, it's going to show you all different kinds of interactions. So it might show you, like in this example, it might show you that the puffer and the fish and the whale all eat the plankton,
Okay.
and that the seal eats the fish, but also the shark eats the fish or whatever else. It's going to show you different paths of energy in the same picture. So a food chain is going to be one set of organism to organism to organism. The web is going to be more complex because it's going to show you all the different routes of energy within multiple organisms in one ecosystem, if that makes sense.
Okay, so I have some notes. I won't bug you explaining them. So okay, so I think I added the sea line and stuff. So basically, I think everything starts here with the plankton because everything starts with the plankton. Plankton will probably will go. The shark is probably going to be the number one, the very top of the list. Is it called apex predator? I don't know. That's what they call it nowadays. The seal would be eating the sea lion would actually technically be eating penguins, but we don't have penguins on here, so that could probably be eating the fish or the plankton. The
Good.
whale is probably gonna be the whale eats well, technically the whale eats like plankton, so plankton will go to the whale, plankton will go to the pufferfish, plankton will go to the to the clownfish, and the clownfish will go to the shark, the coral reef that's not a coral reef, I don't remember what that's called. Um
Yeah,
go
coral.
to that will go to the clownfish and probably just to the clownfish only. Axolotl will eat the plankton. The pufferfish will not be eaten because it's poisonous. The sea lion will probably eat the fish or the plankton. So, can you give me the link? I can try and draw some arrows if it makes it better.
Oh yeah, sorry, I didn't put the link in there, did I? Did I put the? Do I have the link? Hold on, I need to copy the link. Eh. Oh, I guess I can pull it out of this bar. What am I doing? Or do I need to click it here? I don't know. Sorry. Yes, I didn't think about that. Sorry. Copy link. Perfect. No, I love it, Kaden. All of those are good, and I think you putting lines on there will make it even more of a visual. Awesome. So Caden's gonna put some lines on there, and then we'll move to the next screen or some arrows on there, and then we'll move to the next screen and somebody else can share. Now, tell me this. Who in this ecosystem is our autotrophs? Autotrophs. They make their own energy. All right. Troph means energy. Automatically means auto. Like, so they are going to be like the plants of our, yes. Yep. Producers and autotrophs are about the same thing. And I used autotroph and we've been using producers. So thank you for highlighting that because I didn't, those are honestly two terms you really want to know. An autotroph, if remember, let's dissect words, slice and dice. Autotroph, automatically, right? Auto is what it sounds like. It automatically does it on its own, makes energy. Autotroph. And how does it do that? Well, it does that through that amazing process with the chlorophyll in the sun through photosynthesis. Okay, so it's going to make its own energy automatically, autotroph through photosynthesis using the sun. Perfect, Kaden. Everybody give some Kaden some Monday morning love. Thank you so much. Your participation makes a huge deal. All right, let's move to the next one. We'll talk about energy levels more here. Who would like to walk us through a food chain or food web in this ecosystem. So we've got like the African savanna. Any volunteers? I know you guys like to talk. Come on. It's not hard. We'll help you. We promise. Isaiah, I want to hear you talk someday. Let me hear you use your mic someday.
This is not gonna do it. I guess I can try again. I don't really know.
Yes, we'll let
Oh, no,
Kaden
this
do
one's
it
gonna work.
again.
I could try. Probably the vulture is gonna be the top one because
Yeah,
the only reason is because the vulture will eat any of them, and
you're
when they're
100%.
dead, the lion's probably gonna be eating the meerkat, the hyena. Basically, the lion. The lion would technically be number one by eating, like killing, but by eating, vulture's gonna win. If that makes sense.
Yeah,
I don't
I
know why they have a
100%
plant
get that.
there, but that's like more of a prairie plant than a desert plant. But I would say the meerkat's probably gonna eat the plant because they're not. So meerkat plant, zebra plant, hyena eats meerkat, lion eats hyena, and vulture just eats all of them.
Good. So we got the meerkat, maybe the hyena eats the meerkat. I would say probably the lion eats the meerkat. And look, guys, the zebra is, what would the zebra be? Because the zebra would eat probably this grass. What would we classify the zebra as? What would the zebra be? Producer, consumer, primary consumer, secondary consumer, tertiary consumer. What do you think this guy's going to be? This is a good question because I feel like a zebra is like a big animal. So if the zebra is eating the grasses, yes, Madison, perfect. The zebra, even though he's this like ginormous big guy, he is still what we call a primary consumer. Primary being 1, secondary meaning 2, tertiary meaning 3. All right, consumer 1, consumer 2, consumer 3. All right, the primary consumers are getting their energy from autotrophs. So they're getting a lot of pure energy from the grasses that they're eating. All right, so a zebra is a primary consumer. Who might be a secondary consumer in this food chain? If the zebra is a primary consumer, who might be secondary? Good, any of those could potentially be. I think, yeah, because there's a lot. This is a good food web. You're right, Kate. I mean, Kaden, because the hyena could eat the prairie dog, and the prairie dog could technically be a primary consumer too. But the hyena could also eat the zebra, or the hyena could also eat the lion could also eat the zebra. So our secondary consumers would be the hyena and the lion, right? Are meat eaters. They're carnivores. So our meat eaters are going to be our prime or secondary consumers because they eat this guy who the zebra is not eating making his own energy, but he's getting it from the direct source, right? So he's the primary. So we've got our autotroph right down here, making our own energy. Moving to our primary consumer, the zebra, or this meerkat. All right, those would both be examples of primary consumers. Our secondary consumers would be our hyena and our lion. And really, the vulture doesn't necessarily win it all because he is the strongest or the mightiest, right? Because we always seem to feel like It's like that dominant animal at the top as a tertiary consumer, tertiary meaning three levels up. But the tertiary consumer as the vulture, I mean, most of the time those animals are dead, right? So he's not necessarily the strongest, but he is getting his energy from a third level tertiary consumer. Good. All right, now you tell me. Somebody want to walk us through the Arctic, or at least help me identify our autotrophs, our primary consumers, secondary and tertiary. Somebody help me. I know, aren't they cute? Arctic animals are just so stinking sweet. You just like want to cuddle them all. All right, so what would be our primary consumer? What would be our primary consumer?
I need to stop this real quick because penguins live in the South Pole, not the North Pole. They would never ever meet a polar bear or an Arctic fox one day in their life.
It is true.
If you actually watch National Geographic and search it up, they actually would go anywhere where it's cold because their feathers are not used to the cold.
But
That's what
still,
they're made for. So technically, they can go on the pole as long as there's an Arctic fence.
Now, it is true there are different types of penguins.
Yes, y'all have failed me, Micah. Y'all have failed.
There are penguins that live in Africa, right?
Yeah,
that
but
don't
they wouldn't
live
be a polar bear.
But there are South Pole penguins. I'm pretty certain there are South Pole penguins.
But there's no North Pole penguins.
Actually, yeah, pretty sure. There's not many. I think it's not that breed of penguin. I think it's like not that one. That one's like the small ones where they protect the eggs and also they eat their kids and stuff. And I have the image in my head. I just don't remember what the penguin's called.
I'm so bad. I don't know. I know the emperor penguin.
Like when I was a kid, I remember watching like a National Geographic. If they have like the yellow on their stomach or was it on their hair? It was a National Geographic.
It's like off the little tuft of his head.
Yeah, something like that. I remember watching like a National Geographic when I was a kid because I always watched that stuff when I was a kid. And they said there's not many, but and then the crazy National Geographic voice that's something he's been smoking all his life. She's like, by the way, there's this man, and I couldn't understand crap, but I had to look trying to subtitles. And then there's like these yellow ones and the North Pole. I'm like, excuse me.
All right, well, let me actually settle this debate in this, because could this be an environment? Well, it could, because technically we talked about this in the last unit. Remember, if we do have species that are moved from the natural environment. So let's just pretend that all of these critters are in an ecosystem together, because you can move them. It doesn't mean they like it, and it doesn't mean that they'll survive and populate. But Jana will get on her mic, not to explain the food web, but she will stand up for those penguins, dang it. So, we're going to pretend all of these guys are together in a little environment that Mrs. Rittenhouse sets up. Okay. So who would be, in this example, a primary consumer? A primary consumer. They're not a producer / autotroph, not producer. They're not producing the energy, okay? We're looking at a primary consumer. Who would that be? The mouse, the Arctic fox, the penguin, or the polar bear? Could be. Right. I think the penguin or the mouse. I'm pretty sure penguins eat fish, but they could eat some aquatic life from
Their
Ocean.
digestive systems will not allow it.
Allow what?
Mice.
No, not mice. I'm not saying they would eat mice. I'm thinking the penguin. I don't know if they would eat like plankton or something on a like in an oceanic level, like in the water. Jana is our local penguin expert.
I am. I've been studying them ever since I was 6.
Tell us about the diet of a penguin, Jana.
Well, they eat things like shrimp, shellfish, fish, but no mice, no plankton.
All right. So we would they don't eat any if they don't eat any producers whatsoever, no vegetative states, no photosynthesized organisms, then that wouldn't put penguins as primary consumers. I didn't know that. So Jana's helping us today. There would be, you're right, Mila, they would be secondary. So we would say that this little mouse, this little Arctic mouse that lives under our snow would be our primary consumer. All right, let's say that our penguin, and I'm going to say our penguin, and what else would be a secondary consumer? Arctic fox, yep, or the wolf. Good. And then what might be our tertiary consumer?
Foxes typically also eat muskrats and ptarmigans, which is a small bird that's like a pigeon, but for the North Pole.
A North Pole chicken? Or I guess
No,
penguins don't live in the North
pigeon.
Pole.
It's like a pigeon. Pigeon in size, everything.
The great penguin
It's not
debate.
a North Pole chicken, it's a North Pole pigeon.
All right. Is there anyone that wants to share what they've done on the jungle? Or
now the jungle one was correct.
Do you want to go through it for us, Jana?
Oh, Well, obviously we can see there's all the plants in the background, so we don't need to put up anything for that. Of course, typically the bugs would be the first primary consumers of the plant, as well as something like a toucan, because toucans, yes, they also eat bugs as well, for their omnivores. So it's both a primary and a secondary.
There.
But toucans mainly eat things like fruits, seeds, as well as the monkey. Monkeys also eat bugs. And then, well, also same thing for gorillas. Oh, the gorillas mainly eat plants, and then there's the big T'Challa to eat everyone.
Good. And even that snake, right? That snake could probably be a secondary or tertiary.
It eats the bugs, it eats the monkeys, it eats the birds. That's what snakes in the jungle do. They eat everything. You know what
I love that you mentioned, Jana? I love that you mentioned that both the bug and the gorilla were primary consumers. Right? Because a lot of times I think that we think about like, okay, we've got our autotrophs, our primary consumers, secondary, tertiary. I think we think that these tertiary consumers are the big ones, right? The big animals. You can see that even though there's a huge difference in body size between one of those little beetles and that giant gorilla, that they both are those primary consumers. All right. Who gets the most energy from their food source? We're going to play a game. Okay, who gets the most energy from their food source? Is this a cougar?
It's a black panther.
A black panther, sorry. A panther or a beetle? Who gets more energy from their food? A panther or a beetle? Think about this. Who gets the most energy from their food source? The beetle or the panther? Now we're switching our thoughts. Yes, Why does the beetle get more energy
Then
from
you-
their food source than the Black Panther, the
'cause then you
tertiary
s-
consumer?
Because then you say that the more the energy gets consumed, like the plant gets the most energy, the person that eats the plant gets the most energy, and the next person after that gets a little less energy. Then the next person after that gets less energy. So the energy decreases over time. So it's probably the beetle.
Yes, love it. So as we go up the food chain, our sources of food supply get the energy depleted. Does that make sense? So like if I'm a meat eater like the panther, when I as a carnivore as a human as I eat a piece of chicken, all right, as I eat a Chick-fil-A chicken nugget, all right, I'm not getting as much energy as some of those primary consumers are, all right, that are getting their food directly from the source. So as you move up the chain, as you move up the food chain or throughout the food web, you're going to see that the energy level, you're going to need more food, right? So technically, to eat a little bit of food for the beetle goes a long way. And even though the gorilla may eat and eat and eat and eat, he's a big organism, right? So he needs lots of energy to feed all of those body cells. But he's getting it directly from the source. So he's eating a nutrient dense, energy dense source. You guys are doing fantastic today, and I think I'm gonna check my. Oh, I'm already over in time. I didn't even have my phone beside me for my time check. So let's go ahead and stop the screen share. You guys did so well today. I am super impressed. The Great Penguin Debate. We now know if we have any questions in our mind about penguins, we know who to go to. Miss Jana. All right, you guys did a fantastic job. So I want you to look not necessarily at our objectives today. I feel like we've accomplished those and above. Tomorrow we have a quiz over this stuff. So what do you need to do today? I want to make sure you feel good about knowing the difference between a food chain, a food web, about knowing that an autotroph or a producer, an autotroph or producer at the bottom of that layer. Make sure that you know as you go up to primary, tertiary, secondary consumers that they're getting depleted energy through the food chain. All right, those trophic levels. Yep, the 5.08 quiz is for tomorrow. Would you like me to open it today? I'll open it today because I feel like you guys are doing a great job. It won't be due till tomorrow, but I'll open it today. Thanks for your participation. I know you have places to go. I'll see you tomorrow morning. Great job today, guys. Yeah. You're alone because I went long in class today, Isaiah. And everybody's got places to go. You guys are cracking me. I'm not proctoring for some reason, Peyton, which I'm kind of okay with. If I don't get to see my students, I would rather be in class with you than out testing.
I hate testing. I hate it.
Sorry,
hate it.
Mrs.
I'm
Schmidt.
sitting here trying to figure out
I don't.
where I even go, like the login page to start the test. I'm like, there's all these directions, but it doesn't like go